But Paul Feinbaum came out and said that he believes Miami at Florida in week 1 is the most important game of the season. Now, Paul Feinbaum is one of the GOATs, if not the GOAT, in this whole space. How do we feel about what he had to say? And what points does he have here as to why this could be the most important game of the season? Because I do think if you're looking at Miami and Florida, you could make a very realistic case that if it's not the most important game of the season for all of college football, it might be the most important game of the season for both these teams. Before we get to that, though, if you're a college football junkie, make sure you are subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. If you're watching this as a one-off clip, no sweat, but we do this in an hour-long live show that we have on this channel from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern. So make sure you're dialed in. Also follow me on the social channels if you just want to make sure you don't miss a minute of what we got going on in the show. I'll tweet out when we're going live, and that's another great way to make sure you're informed on all things this show. The implications of this game are massive. I mean, for both coaches now going into year 3, it's got a show-me kind of vibe. This is a show-me year for both head coaches. For Miami, this is supposed to be your pop year. First year, go 5-7. Don't love it, but it was year 1, so you get kind of a pass for that. The next year, you go 7-5. Okay, that's progress. Really should have gone 8-4. Didn't take a knee. It is what it is. But you got a roster who reflects that it is year 3 in Coral Gables. You got a quarterback who's a game changer, as we've mentioned already. And you look back at this trend of 5-7 to 7-5. Okay, well, then how much of a jump are we making in year 3 from year 2? This is a show-me year for the good folks in Coral Gables. Same thing is true for Florida. Because this is now, if you're Billy Napier, I think you can say with a lot more confidence, this is your team. Couldn't say that when you arrived, and that's been, I think, pretty well documented. Florida did not walk into a furnished apartment. Like, this boat had a few holes in it when you walked in. From a roster perspective, from a culture perspective, you had to do a little bit of work to get this thing back to neutral. I think they are back to neutral if you're Florida. Now, the schedule was brutal, but this is a game that can do a lot for you when it comes to the approval rating. Because this game, I think, is amplified in terms of impact and stakes because it's a rivalry game. Like, if Florida was opening with Kentucky, it'd be big because it's Billy Napier's year 3, and what I just said about a show-me year is still true. But because it's Miami, rivalry impact, there's some pride involved here. It means a little more for the folks in Gainesville. Same thing for Miami. If you open with NC State, big game, fun matchup, doesn't have nearly the same juice. It's also huge for recruiting optics for either side. Like, rivalry bragging rights are huge, but if you are going to have success at Miami or have success at Florida, you have to recruit the state well. And I've said this many times, but I think one of the keys to recruiting the state well is being able to make the pitch to high school kids, hey, you come play here, you're going to beat the other schools that are currently recruiting you. Florida clearly being in the mix for a lot of these kids in state that Miami's also going after. So whatever happens in this game, man, like, there's going to be an overreaction externally. We know that. Florida loses. People are saying, fire Billy Napier right now. He's not the guy. If Mario Cristobal loses, they're saying, it's year 3 and you can't beat Billy Napier and all the things that Florida's had going on in the offseason. Like, the optics are going to sway very quickly because we get one data point from week 1. So there's going to be an overreaction on the outside. Now, what I'm more curious about, and the reason why I think there's more impact on this game, and why I think Paul Feinbaum's got a point here, there will be an overreaction on the outside. What about on the inside? What happens internally in this game? Because if you win this game for either side of this, there's belief, there's confidence, there's swag. Like, if you're Miami and you go into the swamp and you beat this team, forget what people are saying about Florida. You're saying we went into that environment and we found a way to get a dub. Where else are we going that we can't win? What's the more difficult road atmosphere we're playing in? I don't see one. Cam Ward's first season as a starting quarterback for us here in Coral Gables. He's only going to get better. That was just the jumping off point. The confidence would really, I think, start to gain some momentum and start to build. And if you're Florida, it validates everything that you thought about yourself in the offseason. Because they are, I think, insulating themselves very well right now in Gainesville. They've heard all the talk. They see all the things on social media. But if you beat Miami in game 1, it's okay, we are who we thought we were. Okay, we are exactly what we believed we were during this offseason. Because Miami, they're going to be ranked, I believe, in the top 25, if not higher, to start the season. You beat them game one, validates a lot of what you believe. Now, a loss, I think, has the potential for both sides to really create a bit of, I don't know if a tailspin's the right word, because I don't think it's quite that dramatic, but I do think you lose some confidence. Because everything that either side of this has worked towards this offseason starts with this game. Like, whatever they think they're building out there in Coral Gables or in Gainesville, this is the first brick that you're trying to lay in year 3 for either side of that. So if you can't lay that first brick down, start to look at the rest of the instruction, you're saying, whoa, wait a second. That was supposed to be step 1, and we failed on step 1. Well, how do we do step 2, 3, and 4? Maybe we're extrapolating too much from this, but I think that's probably the general tempo or general tone that would be set on either side, the hesitation at least on either side, if you were to drop game 1. Now, I think that a win or a loss will have staying power for either side of this. But I think if you're Miami, you lose this game, let's just say that happens, you can still run the table the rest of the way. Schedule's pretty workable. You go 10-2, 11-1. 11-1, you're probably in the ACC title game. Not probably. You are in the ACC title game and you're in the college football playoff. 10-2, you have a chance to be in the college football playoff because I think that would put you in the ACC championship game. So if you win that, you're in. Miami can be okay if they drop this game. But you build in the excuse of, okay, well, it was on the road, tough environment, a lot of transfers, like we'll see where we are in a few weeks when we really get this thing solidified. If you're Florida, this could be the game where if you're 7-5 and you're Billy Napier and you beat Miami, maybe this is the lean that gets a couple of votes from people to keep Billy Napier around a little bit longer. But if you get blown out by Miami at home, you go 7-5, people are going back to this rivalry game and saying, yeah, I didn't like the way that looked. That left a bad taste in my mouth, and you're starting from the negative. So I'm not predicting Billy Napier's future at Florida. I'm just saying this is one that you would really like to have in a way where it looks good for either side, but especially for Florida. So is it the most important game of the season? Who's to say? But I think for either side of this, you could sell me on the idea of this being the most important game for the folks at Miami and at Florida. And right now, it's the most important game because for both sides of it, it's the next one. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.